Greetings, everyone, and welcome to yet a DVD review. Yes, this time around, I figured we would look at a true story that actually happened, which got famous due to two journalist writers. Yeah. Of course, if you kind of know what that is, the movie itself is probably one of the absolute best movies about the world of journalism. I am, of course, talking about the Robert Redford, Dustin Hoffman classic, All the President's Men. And we're going to talk about this today on the Media Files. Welcome back. Yeah, so All the President's Men, based off of the book also written by the two original authors and as well as journalists, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. Yeah, so these two guys, they were basically working at the Washington Post at the time, and there was uh, basically a burglary that happened at the Watergate during the Nixon campaign, where Nixon was trying to get elected for a third term. And so, luckily, one of the night patrol officers noticed that the garage door, the garage door itself, was taped closed, so they could get in and out real quick if they needed be. So they ended up arresting five individuals, and as it turns out, they were really high up there that helped deal with Nixon and all of that. But the movie, it covers not only that, but it also covers the fact of how, how journalism kind of worked in the 70s. Because back then, there was no internet, we didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have computers. They had typewriters, and they had to literally use notepads and write everything down, and they used phones to call up people, and they even used what was called a Rolodex. Yeah, Rolodex is basically a big old little thing that uses a bunch of cue cards or little cards that has a whole bunch of information and data that for references that you could use or for people who know of people. But it's also kind of interesting of just how the process itself worked back then. I mean, it still stays true pretty much to this day, especially if you're an old school journalist. But sure, we have cell phones and all that stuff now, but sometimes it's just better to write down notes on a good old piece of paper. So yeah, the movie itself is basically takes the book and basically adapts it. Basically, it's about according to what is it? But yeah, so basically this. I know I was watching a behind the scenes documentary, and that Robert Redford was so invested in this Woodward and Bernstein's story that he went to them directly to see if they would consider making their story into a movie. And sure enough, Woodward agreed. Bernstein was a little bit, harder to work with, but eventually he rolled around to it. The movie itself was directed by Alan J. Palooka, which is probably, I think, his best film. If you don't know who he is, look him up on IMDb. He's made a lot of great movies. Oh, yeah. Not only that, though, the film itself won 4 Academy Awards in the 1976 Oscars. For Best Supporting Actor, Jason Robards, who plays Ben Bradley, the editor of the Washington Post. Also won the screen adaptation by William Goldman, art direction, and sound. And not only that, it also co-stars Hal Holbrook as what is his name? As a Deep Throat, the man who helped Woodward and Bernstein crack the story. So this version of All the President's Men is the 2-disc special edition. This is the edition you want to get. Oh yeah, because you got the movie there with hey look, art. and you also get a second disc filled with bonus features. And it's pretty packed for some pretty good special features. You have Telling the Truth About Lies, The Making of All the President's Men, Woodward and Bernstein, Lighting the Fire, Out of the Shadows, The Man Who Was Deep Throat, a commentary by Robert Redford, a vintage featurette, Pressure and the Press, The Making of All the President's Men, a vintage Jason Robards interview excerpt from Dia, hosted by Diana Shore, Alan J. Palooka Thrillers Trailer Gallery. Yeah, several of Palooka's films, the trailers are on the second disc. But overall, I mean, it's just the way that this movie is directed. In my opinion, I think it's just probably one of the absolute best films ever made, that actually shows about the realm of journalism. Because I studied journalism for a little bit while I was in high school, and just a tiny bit when I was in college, because I was kind of around it quite a bit, and I kind of knew how it works. And family member of mine, he was in the realm of journalism, and he was there for quite a number of years, so I kind of knew how journalism kind of worked a little bit. And not only that, it kind of just shows the amount of respect that people will kind of go through to basically say, hey, I know this situation that happened here was wrong, and I'm glad that you two are basically wanting to, bring this out into the world. Sure, some people were really scared, the fact that they may get fired or that they couldn't talk about it because it was so secretive, but you know what? Hey, the truth comes out eventually. So, yeah, I mean, what else can I say about this movie? How the Dustin Hoffman, though, he kind of steals the show a little bit here in this movie, because especially when he starts taking Woodward's stories that he's already written for it to be reviewed. He takes it to polish it, and it's kind of funny of how he's trying to figure out, well, I don't know if you're talking about this guy here or this guy here, where's the story at? And sure enough, if it wasn't for Bernstein helping Woodward out, I have no idea where they would be at this point. But they got it right. As you are aware, the whole Watergate scandal thing is still, talked about to this day and whatnot. And it's been, the movie itself hasn't been remade, but I would love the fact that if somebody were to actually remake this movie, not really like a Psycho, shot for shot remake, but I would love for somebody to eventually remake this movie, yes, using more modern techniques, but kind of throwing in the style of from David Fincher's Zodiac as far as journalistic scenes go, kind of more of an updated adaptation of it. But there is a movie with Liam Neeson called Mark Felt, which is basically about Deep Throat and how he basically wants to help take down the Nixon campaign and all that, and the administration, because he knows something isn't right, and that's not what he basically stands for. So he helps out Woodward and Bernstein. And there is a little scene in that movie which is basically a big nod to this movie. But I kind of consider that Liam Neeson movie more of like a side part to this. Or like a second movie or kind of what have you. But, what can I say? I mean, overall, the realm of journalism, there's so many good journalistic movies out there. Just look them up on Wikipedia. But on a side note, I remember when I was probably in, I think, middle school, I actually got to meet the actual Bob Woodward. He was giving a speech at nearby college where I was at, and I asked my teacher if I could go there for do some extra credit, and sure enough, she completely agreed. And of course, I remember having a little white card, had no idea what it was for, but it turns out people were asking, it was for him to write down questions. So as Woodward's going through all these things, you see this big pile of cue cards that he completely skips, and he goes, Yeah, all of those are basically everybody wants to know who Deep Throat is. He never reveals it, and he never did. Deep Throat himself revealed himself. And still to this day, Woodward has basically kept his word. I know Bernstein kind of retired and he went on to become a college professor at some point. I know Woodward he still writes books. If you can manage to find not only the book of all the president's men, but if you kind of read about Woodward and his kind of major respect for the world of journalism, read all of his stuff. And not only that, check out his master class. That is, if you're looking into getting into the realm of newspapers as well as journalism itself, um, check it out because that man has years and years of experience and knowledge that he can send out to future journalists of the world. So, with that, yeah, I will definitely link a description, put a link to purchase this particular DVD. Maybe even upgrade to the Blu-ray because hopefully one day I can find this on Blu-ray. I don't know if it has been released in that format or not. I'm sure it probably has. But yeah, definitely check this one out, especially if you're looking for a great, great story. And that also, please like and subscribe. If there's any recommendations that people are looking for, I will post a few titles down in the description as well for this. And always, I'll see you in the next review.